Good day, Miss Nordiana and everyone. Today I am going to present a presentation about the influence of culture on educational settings. But before that, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kristia Alessia Suherman and I am a college from the University of Bunda Mulia. Education. Education is the most important thing that human needs in their daily life in order to gain knowledge and stuff. Usually, we learn a lot of things from school, like an education, like maybe grammar, vocabulary, mathematics, and other stuff. But today we are going to elaborate on the culture part. So we usually study or learn education in school, more specifically in the classroom. So why classroom is an important intellectual setting? Because number one, they gain valuable insights. Number two, the traditional goal of school have been bound to universalistic intellectual or social function associated with the dominant society. Number three is to be aware of the informal knowledge of a culture. And lastly, education in all of its form is one of the largest profession in the United States. So usually students are must of- must use their communication skill in order to demonstrate whether they have mastered the subject matter or not. Usually a first requested in order to achieve the competent multicultural communication capabilities in the educational setting is to understand the dynamic associated with the culture and the education, which is why we will examine the changing dynamic of an educational system, the cultural diverse educational systems, the multicultural education, the influence of language diversity in the multicultural education, and lastly, the development of multicultural teacher competence. So, according to the condition of education on 2008, a report by the National Center for Education stated enrolled in America public school is rising to an all-time high, and the nation's study body is becoming increasingly diverse. Students from diverse curriculum usually make up until 43% of the public school enrollment, and Latino students alone account for 1 in 5 public school students. In addition, 20% of the school age children speak a language other than English at home, while the other 5% of the students speak English with difficulties. So, knowing how teaching occur within a culture is really important. Why? Because provide it provides us knowledge about the nature of the culture. It helps us understand about the importance of culture placed on education, and it also helps us understand the interpersonal relation between among students and also between the students and the teacher. So next I'm going to discuss about the multicultural education. Multicultural education itself in the United States, says Bennett, is an approach to teaching and learning that is based upon the democratic values and beliefs, and also affirm cultural pluralism in an interdependent society. So next is going to be cultural learning preferences. A learning preferences is usually defined as the way in which individuals like to receive and process information. By learning preferences describe the different processes of people to use to absorb information, solve problem, and also create learning. I'm going to discuss 4 of them. The first one will be field independence versus field sensitivity. This learning preferences is based on how people tend to perceive their environment, and whether they can focus on the field, which is the whole concept, or concentrate on parts of the field. Usually, this style is sometimes referred as to whether one can see the whole forest or just the tree. The second one will be cooperation versus competition. This learning style reflected on whether students prefer to work together in a cooperative environment or to work independently in a competition with one another. Usually, students from the collective culture expect and accept group work. In fact, they usually work harder in a group than they do alone. While student in individualism in the culture expect to be graded more than on the individual work. The third one will be trial and error versus watch and then do. So some people prefer to learn by engaging themselves in a task and learn to do it by trial and error. There are also some who desire demonstration and want to observe them first, then attempt to do the task. Lastly, will be tolerance versus intolerance for ambiguity. This classification reflects how well people contend with ambiguity. Students from some culture are open-minded about contradiction, differences, and uncertainty, while some students from other cultures prefer a structured, predictable environment with little changes. Next will be cultural motivation style. There are four kinds of style. The first one will be intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation are some students that possess an internal drive to succeed. Some simply like excelling at a test is a sufficient reward to motivate themselves. Some Europe students are generally motivated to learn for the intrinsic reason, while the American students, on the other hand, are motivated to succeed academically. Next one will be an extrinsic motivation, where students who are require extrinsic motivation, like an internal drive, and need to be stimulated by an external reward. The third one will be learning on demand, usually occur in an educational environment that has set a curriculum. Usually, students are expected to study which are scheduled without regard to their particular interest. Lastly, we'll be learning when interested. In some of the culture, people believe that they should only have to learn what is useful and interesting to them rather than gain information just for the sake of gaining information. This motivation style is referred to as learning when interested. That is all for my presentation. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed.